Hey everybody, I'm Nick, and this is our sex talk. The ways people sometimes talk about sex these days tend to leave out aspects that are really, really important. This series is all about asking the question, what if there's more to it than we think? If you're thinking this is the most awkward situation any human could possibly be in, let me explain what my experience hearing about sex was like. I remember moving to Coachella Valley, and maybe a year in, I must have been in 4th grade, my mom rented a video at Blockbuster. If you don't know what Blockbuster is, it's like Amazon Prime Video, but in a huge store where you rent VHSs and DVDs. It's like Redbox, but an entire store. Anyways, I thought it was a normal Friday where we were gonna watch movies and hang out. Unfortunately, I was wrong. Before we could even pop popcorn, my mom was calling me into the living room. She told me that pretty soon my body would be changing and that I needed to know what was gonna happen. I remember watching this 15-minute VHS cartoon video, and all I could focus on was how the girl cartoon was covered on her chest, but the boy wasn't. To say the least, it was very awkward. The hope is that no matter what, my experience won't be your experience because of the way that we'll be talking about sex these next 4 weeks. Regardless of what your experience has been with the talk, whether you got it from a parent, your health teacher, at church, your friends, the internet, or not at all, something we can probably all relate to is this. When it comes to sex, everyone has an opinion. And this makes things really difficult, which leaves us with a problem. What should we believe? Where do we go to find out what we really need to know? The thing is, with as many messages as you have already gotten about sex, what if there was still something more to it than you think you know? That's what we're gonna be spending time with talking about today. And to get us started, I wanna ask, have you ever tried to jump into the middle of a show a few seasons in, or opened up your group chat, read the last message, and were totally confused because you missed the last 70 messages? You'd have to figure out how it all started, right? In the same way, when it comes to sex, going back to the start is helpful. And when I say beginning, I mean the very beginning. We're gonna look at a passage of scripture found in the very first book of the Bible, and the name of that book is Genesis. This ancient book includes the story of the beginning of the world from the perspective of the people of Israel. Genesis opens with the creation of the world. It's a story of God's intentional work to make the world. Then on the 6th day, God makes human beings. And this is what the author of Genesis writes. Then God said, "Let us make human beings in our image, to be like us. They will reign over the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, the livestock, all the wild animals on the earth, all the small animals that scurry along the ground." So, God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. Then God blessed them and said, "Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and govern it." These couple of verses tell us a few things, but for our purposes, we'll focus on 2. God made people and God made sex. The writer says, it was very good. Sex is good, but sex is powerful. That's the first message we have about sex. Sex is good. It can feel so good. It has an expression of love and trust and vulnerability, and sex is powerful. It brings 2 people together in an intimate way. It can create life, it can bond relationships, it can break relationships. And if sex is good and it's powerful, then that means sex is not shameful. How we treat sex and how we treat people truly matters. But what does this mean for us right now? We live with sexual integrity. First of all, integrity is simply living in a way where your beliefs and values match your actions, where what you think and hold deeply to be true comes out in the way that you live. So when we say we need to live with sexual integrity, it means that we think and believe about sex matches how we treat and talk about and view sex. We define it this way. Sexual integrity is guarding your potential for intimacy through appropriate boundaries and mutual respect. When your beliefs about something match your actions, you are set up to win in that area. That's the goal for sexual integrity. And we get there with appropriate boundaries, mutual respect. When we say creating appropriate boundaries, we mean having a conversation with yourself and the person you are with about what is acceptable physically and emotionally. It also means having conversations about what you are going to do to keep those boundaries. It means being protective ahead of time and proactive ahead of time about what you want and what you don't want when you are in the moment. And here's what we mean by mutual respect. Mutual just means you are making decisions realizing there is more than one person involved here. So to have mutual respect means there's a shared respect and shared honoring of one another. It means there is a question of what is good for both of us. Does this honor them? Does this honor myself? This means you don't take advantage of someone else and you don't compromise your own boundaries. This also means you have conversations instead of trying to read someone else's mind. You don't expect someone to read yours, so why read theirs? In other words, sexual integrity is about way more than sex. It's about how you understand sex as good and powerful, but also how you view yourself and others. God made humans very good, and part of God's plan for these very good people was sex as a good and powerful thing. What if there was more to sex, and it was much simpler than we had ever imagined? How we understand sex and how we see and think about people matters. When we see God's design for sex more clearly, we can see just how good and powerful it really is.